It was on the 8th of October 2022 when the Sinsogumi Incident occurred. An incident that will forever be remembered for all of the wrong reasons, as a group of VTubers that have formed called Sinsogumi had recently come up with a plan, a piece of guerrilla gameplay for reasons unknown. Perhaps it was to stir up some controversy to gain more viewers, or perhaps it was just chaos for the sake of chaos. You know what Splatoon is, right? The Nintendo game? Well, the basic premise of that game is that you shoot paint at the other team, and whoever covers more area of the map wins. This is as innocent of a game as they come, but what the Sinsogumi group would do, the sick, twisted way they decided to play the game, would be in the headlines for days after it happened. And their plot involved the chroma key. If you don't know what chroma keying is, people use it a lot in editing and whatnot. The term is used quite interchangeably with green screening, which you might be a bit more familiar with. You choose a color to key, and from there on out, that color is transparent. Therefore, anything layered beneath it can be seen, and if you were to have an adult video layered underneath your gameplay, and you set the keyed color to the color of your opposing team's paint, then you would have it so that when the other team shoots, you'd have blots and splodges of this video that can be seen. This took the game to a whole new level, because if you were losing now, more of your screen is going to show this porn, so you would need to shoot your paint to make sure you can cover up the video. The stakes had never been higher. This was the highest risk, lowest reward game of Splatoon that was ever played, and it would go down in infamy. Apparently, the group were having a bit of a competition because whoever had their stream banned from YouTube first lost. Tomero Ikinone, Sigure, Hinachun, Kudoe Tatsuki, Sophia Sapphire, Terry Buzu, Ryutaru, and Kimiko Kikaze, who came up with the idea originally, were the deviants who decided that this sickening joke would be a fun game to play. From what I read online, one of these streamers, Hinachun, was actually involved in adult content before this, and so believe it or not, one of the videos being played in the background was Hinachun's. Talk about reusing content, right? Anyways, if you're interested in hearing who lost the game, I read that one streamer, Sigure, had their account terminated mid-stream. Most VTubers later issued apologies the next day, which I find hilarious, but upon clicking the links of some of these apologies, I found that Ikinone's channel had also been terminated, and I saw Koda announce that they were no longer going to be active on the internet. Nintendo was understandably damn furious because of this incident. Nintendo can obviously be played by people of all ages, but it also has a huge child audience, and if some of those children were watching these streams, which, let's face it, there likely were a few, they would be exposed to some horrendously inappropriate content. Since the controversy, Sinsogumi have remained quite active on the internet, but they're yet to do anything to top this most heinous activity. This will go down as one of the wildest case studies for VTubers ever, and it is definitely one of the darkest depths in the genre's history. Now that's just one of the stories I have for you today, one of many. Of course you've read the title and you've sat through the first story. In this video we're going through the darkest depths of VTubers. Since 2015, when a YouTube channel simply called AI Channel introduced Kizuna AI to the world, we have had VTubers among us. Kizuna is thought to be the patient zero of VTubers. She was the first. She was a digital character voiced and manipulated by a real person behind the scenes. The world had never seen anything like her, but over the years they would see a lot more. We're going to start off relatively tame, but as the video progresses, each story is going to get more extreme and mind-blowing, building up to, and I kid you not, VTubers being used as government propaganda. So with all that to look forward to, let's jump right into it. Now, just like anyone else on the internet, VTubers in the past have been subject to criticism and attack. In our next case, however, while some people thought that this attack was justified, others thought that it was taken too far. This was the fallout of Quinn69's VTuber Rant. So Quinn69, a New Zealand local, seemed to have been watching some stuff on Twitch when he noticed some VTubers on the side of his screen, and seemingly unprovoked, for about a minute he just unloaded on VTubers, unleashing some heavy criticism towards them. He is evidently not a fan, let me tell you right now, but let's have a little look to see what he had to say.
Fucking VTubers, they talk in this stupid fake fucking voice. Oh my god, I'm a little VTuber. Oh wow. Laughing and pretending to be fucking 13. They had to pretend to be 13 and put on some fake cringe voice and just create parasocial relationships with desperate fucking weebs who can't get a fucking girlfriend in real life because they're fucking pathetic.
So yeah, he's clearly not a fan. He doesn't like them putting on a fake voice, he doesn't like their cutesy personas, he doesn't like them babifying themselves or acting 13 as he said. He definitely doesn't like the fans, but we'll get to that in a second, and other creators have shared similar concerns. I spoke about parts of this topic in my Darkest Depths of e-girls video, the fact that some e-girls allegedly infantilize themselves but also sexualize themselves at the same time, and there are some people, Quinn69 included, who think that the same thing applies to VTubers. Quinn69's points against VTubing fans are also very shocking, and it makes sense that some people might get quite offended when they hear that Quinn thinks that VTube fans are desperate weebs who can't get a girlfriend in real life. You can see that even within his chat, the responses were polarized. Some people were saying that VTubers were living rent-free in his head or that he was jealous of them, but others, however, said that Quinn had a good take, or that they agree with what he had to say. Quinn69 has today more than 700,000 followers on Twitch. He's quite huge, and his audience apparently took what he had to say and just ran with it. The rant was later posted to Reddit r/livestreamfail, an area where people post the latest Twitch drama, and this exposed his views and opinions to a new audience, many of whom shared the same opinion. I feel like VTubers and their fans are in an area on the internet kind of like furries and the creeps on WikiFeet, where people feel very comfortable just to dunk on them. It's an easy punchline, they're an easy group to attack. These words do have consequences, however, and it was around this time last year, in March 2022, that Iron Mouse, one of the largest VTubers in the world, would come out to claim that since the rant, she had received much more hate and toxicity in her streams. Iron Mouse has 1.5 million followers. She's a very big streamer, and her avatar was featured in the clip that Quinn was watching, as well as Vebe, Snuffy, and Nyanas. She claimed that Quinn didn't know anything about VTubers and said that what he was saying wasn't true, admitting that she'd recently seen an increase in hate within her chat. Let it be known that Quinn never explicitly asked for this. He never asked his fans to go and berate the VTubers that were on the screen. They were just kind of riled up on what he had to say. Some people might say that streamers with as large of a following as Quinn should be more careful or aware that this kind of fallout might happen. But others would argue that compared to some of the other things that he said in the past, these VTuber comments were relatively tame. He's been banned off Twitch a few times in the past because of these, one time in particular after making extremely controversial comments in regards to women, saying that if they weren't needed for reproduction, they would be killed off by now. Is what he said true? Are VTubers putting on fake 13-year-old voices? Are they cheating the system? Are all of their fans a bunch of basement-dwelling loser dweebs? Or is this just sour grapes? I know what I'd say, but let me know what you think. If you've seen any of my Darkest Depths videos before, you'd know that sometimes I like to dip into academia to talk about a point or discuss a larger theme, and that's exactly what we're going to do for this next case. Take a look at a VTuber and what do you see? We have someone who's utilised screen capture software to puppeteer an anime-inspired character, but VTubers are quite unlike anything we've really seen before. Just before, we discussed how Quinn69 went off on VTubers talking in a younger voice and putting on a show. Do they? He calls them cheaters. He thinks that what they're doing is fake. These creators have crafted to a T exactly how they want to be represented on screen. If they're self-conscious about their looks or their voice or their presence on camera, they can adjust it. They have the advantage of being seen, but not really. In the same vein, in an era of content creation where authenticity and identity mean so much, to what extent are these creations real and authentic? Do you not think that some people would see that it's very profitable to perhaps hide behind a mask, put on a fake voice, play up this character, and then take home the bread? Let's talk about that. So when I was pondering over this, I came across Anna Brianna Turner's 2022's master thesis. It was a good read from what I read, and she made some points that I had been thinking too. She made points about the separation of online and offline selves, she made points about parasocial relationships, and also the inverse of imagined audiences, how VTubers don't really know their audience because their relationship will purely only ever live online. It's not like myself or other creators where if we're just walking down the street, you could see us and come up to us and we could have an interaction because you would know who we are. You could walk past your favourite VTuber of all time and you would have no clue whatsoever. For these sorts of streamers, their audiences are usernames in a Twitch chat box, and it's much harder to infer anything about them from that. However, I want to draw your attention to her study in which she reached out to 77 VTubers on Twitch. Of these, 10 of them responded and completed an interview with her. These VTubers that took the interview ranged in size from less than 1,000 followers to almost 400k. They also varied in gender and when they started VTubing, though most began in the past 3 years. She found that for 8 of the 10 VTubers that she spoke to, their avatar was meant to incorporate aspects of the creator. Most of these participants also found that these sorts of online communities could be seen as a safe haven for traditionally vulnerable communities such as the furry community and the LGBT community, and it's actually the separation of the real and virtual that allows this to happen. Most of the VTubers thought of their avatars as more of an extension of themselves rather than a character that they've created, with some of them thinking that role-playing characters are falling out of fashion, albeit with some of them claiming that though they're not playing a character, their personality is a bit different when in front of the camera. Then there was a small minority who did claim to play a character, but they also said that playing this character allowed them to have a form of escapism, so this helps them deal with their anxieties and whatnot, rather than this being for monetary gain. Though one later brought up a very fascinating point, which is, what is a real, authentic person? When you go out in public, you abide by rules, norms, values and whatnot that you might not have if they didn't exist. You might wear clothing to try and impress someone rather than because you like it. In a social interaction, you'll try to present yourself how you want to come off. You might act or play up to try and fit within a social group. You could even say that you might even take on a bit of a character. When at home, there is no audience for him to worry about. When he's out in public and accompanied by friends, his self-presentation is influenced by his perception of their expectations as well as the strangers around him. Now, this study does have flaws. The sample size is very small and also very Western. VTubing has Japanese origins and it's incredibly popular around Asia, so when you have 6 Yanks, 3 Limeys and a Dane, perspectives won't be incredibly varied. This story isn't as shocking as some of the others we'll have today, but it's important to keep in mind what the concept of the VTuber means in the larger picture. Onto something that should be shocking though, but probably isn't, allegations dominate our next tale. It was only a few months ago, towards the tail end of last year, in October 2022, the news stories broke that a very large Chinese VTuber, one of the biggest on Bilibili, had abused his former partner, misled fans, and committed a number of other unspeakable deeds. As I said, this story takes place in China, so I'm going off journalistic sources here, and they point to a VTuber known as Kyouka, who is the founder of a group known as Over-Idea. By the time this news came out, it seems as though Kyouka had helped the group reach more than 1 million subscribers on Bilibili. He had also collaborated with other extremely popular VTubers such as FoxAkimbo, who is a very large streamer in his own right. He has more than 1 million subscribers on YouTube. Everything was going right for Kyouka and Over-Idea, but as has happened so many times now, behind the scenes there was more to this than met the eye. In early October of 2022, another VTuber known as Bingtang came out with a video titled "My 3 Years with a Scum" or something along those lines after being translated into English. It was a video that was just shy of being 90 minutes long, which detailed numerous distasteful things that Kyouka did. This video was filled to the brim with screenshots and other pieces of evidence, having since been translated into English too. This includes recordings of their conversations, adding further incrimination. Kyouka approached a number of female VTubers who posted vulnerable messages on social media before chatting to them very deeply, very privately, sometimes in voice calls, sometimes by sending photos to you and revealing personal information. I've got my laptop here just to list off a few of the things that Kyouka is said to have done. I want to make sure I get all of the allegations correct. He's said to have solicited sex workers, which is very illegal in China. He would then allegedly tell Bingtang of these encounters. He pressured Bingtang into what she called softcore sexual content. He's said to have just been leeching off other VTubers for views and fame and money, and even when it came to his own fans, he didn't care because he apparently called them money printers. He's said to have been emotionally manipulative, he's said to have been a sex pest, and he apparently sent death threats after this news came out. These are all monstrous things, but allow me to remind you that these are just allegations. I'm not accusing him of anything, I'm just repeating what I read on the internet. After Bingtang came out with her story, fans instantly turned on Kyouka. And though he'd come out and tried to clear things up, from what I'm aware, this also didn't turn out well for him, as fans thought that he was making excuses or actually putting the blame on Bingtang. In the fallout of this, Over-Idea would forever be tainted by this news story coming to light, and they've now been marked as controversial on Bilibili. The exposing video would later be taken down from Bilibili. Whether that was due to the harassment that Bingtang received, or whether it was over idea trying to sweep this under the rug, I can't say for sure. Though it has been re-uploaded on YouTube since, but nonetheless, this has raised questions when it comes to the VTuber community. I've always been one to say that you really don't know your favourite creators, especially when they're hidden behind an avatar. Just like any other form of media, of course VTubing is going to have its fair share of bad eggs, but this could just be a small microcosm of the lies, deceit, manipulation and dirty deeds within the community. With it being a fairly recent phenomenon, only time will tell just how commonplace this sort of behaviour truly is. It really is a shame that Bingtang suffered so much harassment from audience members during this saga of her life, but unfortunately, this kind of thing isn't an isolated incident within the VTuber community. Now, I'm a little bit late for this one. For the most part, this controversy has come and gone, but the release of Hogwarts Legacy really ignited a fire in the hearts of gamers around the world. If you somehow don't know why, the author of the Harry Potter franchise in which Hogwarts Legacy is a part of is J.K. Rowling, one of the most famous modern authors. She's one of the most influential writers of the past century, she's worth a fortune, and for the longest time, she was a universally well-respected and big feminist figure. However, over the past few years, she's come under fire for many things. It started off light. People thought that it was a bit weird that she retconned her books years later, saying stuff like Uncle Vernon supported Brexit, that wizards didn't have toilets so they would just take a dump and then magic it away, and apparently Harry Potter has erectile dysfunction. Like, this is all true. It's really weird, unhinged stuff that just didn't need to be put in there. That was the lightest of her controversies though, because people have since accused her of racism, especially when it comes to naming her characters. I've seen a lot of people on Twitter get upset that she has an Irish boy called Seamus and an Asian girl called Cho Chang. I'm half Irish myself, so I will admit there's a lot of Seamuses out there in Ireland, but still it's a very stereotypical name nonetheless. Cho Chang's probably even worse. But of course, her largest controversy has to be her views on transgender people. J.K. Rowling has been called a TERF, or a trans-exclusionary radical feminist online, and if you've seen her name in the news over the past 2 to 3 years, it's likely been because of this. Thus, because the Harry Potter franchise is intrinsically tied to its creator, when Hogwarts Legacy dropped, there was an uncomfortable standoff. Some people were saying that the game shouldn't be played or streamed as it was lining the pockets of a transphobe. Others thought that it absolutely should be played, as J.K. Rowling had very little to do with the game other than give it the world in which it's based in, and on top of that, plenty of hardworking game devs worked on it. Some others just wanted to play it regardless of Rowling's views, and some people wanted to play it because they agreed with what she had to say and perhaps bought the game in solidarity with her. But in the case of Pikamee, a former VTuber and streamer, some people took their attack on the game perhaps a little bit too far. So Pikamee was a Japanese streamer under the VOMS project, an independent group of VTubers. She had more than 700,000 subscribers on YouTube, she had more than 40 million views on the platform, but once it was revealed that she planned to stream Hogwarts Legacy, her online career would come to a quick and abrupt end. Let me say that this controversy is not confirmed to be the reason that she left in the slightest, but it is the leading theory because many streamers face severe backlash for trying to play the game. The most notable of these was Silverveil, who ended his stream in tears after being harassed for playing the game. Hogwarts Legacy dropped on the 10th of February this year, instantly becoming one of the largest games on Twitch. Pikamee announced on Twitter her plans to play the game, but this offended many of her viewers who claimed that in doing so, she was being transphobic and she agreed with Rowling's views. Some of these people went into the pre-chat of her stream and flooded it with hate and insults directed at Pikamee. It all got a bit too much for her and she ended up cancelling her stream, later going on to tweet that she didn't support transphobia, she just wanted to play the game. By March 1st, after a month hiatus, Pikamee announced that she would be graduating at the end of the month, which essentially means to retire. She's kept her word too, having since privated or deleted all of her content. On the one hand, if this was in fact the reason that she stopped, some people would say, fair play, because if you can't handle the heat, get out the kitchen. Speaking from personal experience, if you can't handle a small controversy like this, perhaps being an online figure just isn't for you. On top of that, just by merely playing the game, some people would say that you're perpetuating transphobia and bigotry. Even if you don't agree with what Rowling has to say, you're saying it's okay or that you'll only stand with the trans community until it inconveniences you. If you're a large streamer, you're going to have influence, and some people might be convinced to buy the game because of you. And this is only going to line the pockets of JK Rowling and potentially fund TERF campaigns. However, others might say that it's a bit hypocritical preaching for tolerance and respect, and then simultaneously viciously attacking people to the point of tears just because they played a video game that you don't like. You could also point out the severe hypocrisy of people messaging these streamers on iPhones made in factories with suicide nets outside the window delivered to them through Amazon. Where do you draw the line in what's okay to buy and what's not? Let me say too that though hate and harassment did occur, it's obvious that not all trans people and their allies were in favour of doing this. Many of them urged others not to send hate and threats. More on that, some people made the point that trans streamers face much more consistent and often much more severe hate raids than what these Hogwarts streamers faced. This backlash was allegedly more denouncing their support rather than doxing, physical threats, or anything more serious like that trans streamers face all the time. Still, it's tough to see that if that was the case, why streamers such as Silverveil would break down into tears and why Pikamee would potentially decide to stop streaming altogether because of it. And now for the coup de grace of this video, a story so wild that when I read it for the first time, I thought it was something from The Onion, but trust me, it's not. Let's talk about the time that the Chinese Communist Youth League tried to dip their toes into VTubing. Yes, this is legitimate. It seems quite similar to the military thirst traps from my Darkest Depths of Egos video, so if you're interested in this topic, make sure to watch that one next. But essentially, it was in February of 2020 when all of these news articles seem to have broken. I'm reading a blog post from James Newby for my information on this source. According to his own accounts, he's been living in China since 2005, and his work has been published in such publications as The Wire, The Financial Times, and Vogue. His post claims that the Chinese Communist Party have tried to engage with younger people by trying to speak their language. They did this by creating VTubers called Zhang Xinjiao, who is the female VTuber icon, and her male counterpart, Honky Man. According to Newby, the Communist Youth League attempted to build excitement around a pair of virtual influencers by teasing their silhouettes and the word, "New VTubers are coming soon." Within hours, the post had attracted tens of thousands of comments and hashtags. However, things started going wrong when people started using these hashtags to vent on misogyny and make outright political points. So as of a result of this, the Communist Youth League decided to delete their post and try to pretend like they never existed. Now that I know this, let me tell you that at some point in the future, I'm definitely going to make a video about governments using influencers to try and reach the younger generations, because it's not just China that's done it. As I said, America has done it before, and I think I saw somewhere else that North Korea's been doing it recently. So don't be surprised if this kind of thing becomes even more commonplace in the future. But what should become more commonplace in the future is you watching my videos. Twitch's Shocking Bad Accounts comes to mind as one that I'm sure you'll like if you enjoyed this one, and if you did, please make sure to like and subscribe, and apart from that, I'll see you later.